So baseball coming off that big weekend sweep of Louisville and the weekend series against Duke, upcoming at Jack Coombs Field in Durham. And again, one of those games already complete from last night as you are hearing this, but Adam and I don't know the result of that game. And for the Tar Heels, big weekend sweep, did not play on Tuesday due to weather against a good UNCW team, unfortunately unable to play that game. But the Heels closing out the regular season and closing it out with a difficult series against Duke. But Tar Heels playing well, really hitting the ball well, controlled that series against Louisville. I don't know so there are 27 innings played in the 3 games. I would guess Carolina led for 25 of the 27 innings. I know Louisville led early in one of the games. But a pretty dominant weekend for Carolina as it heads into the postseason starting next week with the ACC tournament.
I think we definitively know at this point Carolina is better than the average to good teams. I think the only question is where do they fall on the spectrum of great teams, which you think of as probably being in that top 8. And the way the projections sit now, there seems to be a consensus the Tar Heels are a top 8 team. I think if you go into Duke and you win 1 or 2, and then you go to the ACC tournament and you win 1 or 2, then you've put yourself in really good position to be a top 8 seed, which is exactly where you want to be going into the NCAA tournament. It doesn't guarantee anything other than you will get to play at home as long as you are participating, which, because Carolina's been so good at Boshamer Stadium, is exactly what the Tar Heels want and need in order to have the very best chance to make it to Omaha, which, I think as we sit here now, if we had told our February selves these Diamond Heels will have this chance to go to Omaha, I think we would have been very happy with the way the season's gone. You've got a chance to have the best record in the conference in one of the 2 best conferences in the country. It's hard to do much better than that.
Just a reminder on how the ACC tournament works, because it's a little funky. The teams are broken up into pools, 4 different pools of 3 teams each. So everybody's guaranteed to play 2 games, and then you take the winners of each pools, which obviously if there's a 2-0 team is pretty clear, and then if it's 1-1 teams that are tied, you just go with the highest seed. So being one of the top 4 seeds is a huge advantage because you have a very good chance, as long as you win 1 game, you're going to advance out of, well, I shouldn't say that because there could be a 2-0 team and you go 1-1. You have a very good chance of advancing out of pool play if you're one of the top 4 seeds. Not guaranteed, but a very good chance. And then you get to the semifinals, which happen on Saturday, and that's just a 1-game, 2 semifinals, so 4 teams left. The 2 winners play on the championship on Sunday. So it's a little bit of a unique format, and we've talked about that many times in the past about how I do think it's a legitimate challenge to find a good format for the conference tournament because of how important really is it, etc. And not every team advances to the conference tournament. You only have 12 of the 14 ACC teams that play baseball advance. So not everybody advances through to the ACC tournament. And we don't know which teams are in. We do know Carolina has qualified. And will get a top 4 seed. So they will certainly have a good opportunity to advance to, at minimum, the semifinals. Adam, I do think, and you and I obviously saw a bunch of baseball back in the 2000s era, because Adam and I called games from 04, 5 time period to 2012. This is I'm not going to say it's the best, although it might be. It is as good an offense as Carolina has had. I mean, you can put it up with 2013 or 2008 or whichever teams that you consider to be some great Carolina teams. And this offense is right up there with any of them. There's just no break in this offense. The power has been really impressive. And I really think that the fact that it's 1 through 9, and I think you always feel good when someone is up to the plate. I do think it's significant. Now, in the game of baseball, I do think that you can run into hot pitchers and all those different things. But this offense feels like it gives Carolina a chance every single time that it plays to be successful. And if you look at these numbers, hitting .315 as a team, Carolina has 90 doubles and 96 home runs with still 3 games in the regular season to play. Their on-base percentage as a team is almost 42%. They can run. They've stolen 78 bases. You're hitting for power. You're hitting for average. You're dangerous on the base pass. It's formidable.
Yeah, and as we've talked about, I think the only question is, can you maintain that offense against the elite pitching that you're going to have to beat in the postseason? But that's the question for everyone else also. So it's not like the Tar Heels are unique in that capacity. You have put yourselves in position to play some of those games at home, which I do think is important. Carolina's just been so good there, only 2 losses at home this year. And so that's going to matter, but you're going to have to play somebody in theory. And remember, we've talked about this before. There's no guarantee you're making it out of the regional. It used to be taken for granted. Oh, of course you'll make it out of the regional. If you do make it out of the regional, you're going to have to play a best 2 out of 3 against a very, very good team. Most likely, in Carolina's case, either an SEC team or East Carolina, which has already beaten Carolina 2 out of 3 in a home neutral road series this year. East Carolina is very, very good. And there have been some wild Carolina, East Carolina regionals and super regionals in the recent history. So some exciting games coming up no matter what for Carolina baseball, and they've put themselves in position to be in that spot.
I'm just looking, the 9 guys who are the traditional 9 starters for Carolina. So that's including the DH Osuna, obviously not the pitcher because the pitcher's not batting in college. And again, there are a couple other guys that have played some, but those traditional 9, 8 of the 9 are batting 300 or better. And the one who isn't is Luke Stevenson, and he's hitting .292 with 12 home runs. That's crazy.
Your one guy who's not in that category is a freshman who you feel like could hit it out pretty much any time and is also playing the hardest defensive position on the field.
You look at the team slugging percentage of .551. Seems good to me. I know you're more baseball than me, Adam, but that seems really good. Especially, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those 9 slugging better than .550. That's crazy.
Yeah, Carolina's very good. I think if someone was going to make an argument against Carolina, they would say, well, they missed Clemson and Florida State in the league.
Accurate.
Which are 2 of the better 3 or 4 teams in the conference. So you would like to have that on your resume just to know how that went. But at the same time, Carolina went to Wake and swept Wake. I think the other argument would be, how good have they been away from Boshamer? Because they have lost some series on the road, almost all against very good teams. But here's the thing. They may not have to go away from home until Omaha. So that is a legitimate point, but it is not a point that they may have to face. So, and also the ACC is really good.
And the Tar Heels, now granted, there's still this weekend to go. The Tar Heels haven't been swept. And I know that isn't, like, you always want to win every series. But when you have, that tells you that team is, to me, that you're competitive every single weekend. You're going to lose some weekends. Baseball is that way. But to have never been swept, or to not have been swept, and again, the Duke series, Carolina may have won last night, and so this is 100% accurate, or Duke could still possibly sweep the series. Don't know. But to not have been swept to this point of the year, I think is impressive too.
And I think that's so often what makes the difference in a top 8 team and a top 16 team, is when you can avoid things like that happening, when the first 2 don't go your way and then you just don't show up on Sunday and you get swept, but you're still a good team. Carolina hasn't done that this year, and they have swept some other teams, and I think that's why they're in the position they're in.